we're looking at something pretty special for all the Union Pacific fans. Broadway Limited's stunning Paragon 3 Union Pacific Late Challenger 3714. Just look at this amazing little piece of art. Broadway Limited has truly gone out of their way with the extra level of detail on this HO scale model. As you can see here on the front of the locomotive, there's a free swinging brass bell. I'm really glad that Broadway Limited added this feature, as well as the opening cab window. Broadway Limited also added a vent hatch on the top of the cab. There is room on the front of the locomotive to add a coupler. It does not come with a dummy coupler and you have to install your own coupler. Now let's set this locomotive on the test track and start it up. I turned the lights off to the locomotive before recording, so that's why they don't start up immediately. As you can see, the lights on the front of the locomotive are super bright. The number boards on the sides of the headlight even light up. This locomotive is die-cast and is one of my favorites. I absolutely love Challengers and I'm super happy I was able to get my hands on one of these. As you can see here, this locomotive produces a lot of smoke. I would only recommend putting at most 10 drops of smoke fluid into your locomotive. Any more than that, you risk damaging the smoke unit. Broadway Limited is also one of the only manufacturers to add a smoking whistle. I did customize some of the features of this locomotive, like how fast the bell rings and what type of bell I'm using. I also edited what type of whistle I use, but I'll showcase them later in the video. This locomotive is super smooth and has directional lighting. The speed step 1 is really slow, and I think it's super realistic. One thing to note, however, is that I had to purchase and install a Keep Alive into the board of this loco due to the lack of energy this loco could hold going over small sections of unpowered rails. I'll put a link to this Keep Alive as well as the tutorial on how to install it in the description of this video. Another thing to keep in mind is that the drawbar of this locomotive that connects the tender to the locomotive is very fragile. I had to fix mine with JB Weld. It wasn't a big issue, however, and it's pretty sturdy now. The whistle is actually pretty loud on factory settings. I suggest that you lower it so you don't get yelled at by somebody at your train club like I did. This locomotive is no longer produced by Broadway Limited. It is still accessible by some retailers, and I picked mine up for about $380. I did buy this locomotive used though, and there were a few small problems with it that I wasn't unable to fix. I was able to find a locomotive in the box that was selling for about $410 on eBay used. The smoke for this locomotive is super easy to use. Basically, all you have to do is just use a dropper and pour it down the smokestack. You don't have to pour it down the whistle or anything complicated. One thing to remember when you're using smoke on any Broadway Limited engine, or any engine for that matter, is to always turn it off when there's no smoke fluid in it, so it doesn't burn up the heating element in the smoke unit. The F7 key is used to turn off the smoke unit. Here are all the different types of whistles. This first one is the alternate whistle by pressing F22. The second whistle is an alternate whistle you have to change in the CV settings. This is the whistle that it comes with in the box without changing any CVs. and I have no idea why anybody would switch to this whistle. These are some of the functions that the locomotive comes with. Function 10 is the auger. Function 11 is the water pump. Function 12 is setting and releasing the brakes. Function 13 is the grade crossing signal. Functions 14 through 19 are radio chatter.
Permission to depart. Be advised, switches on the north end might be against you, so go out looking out for switches. That's Roger. Sorry for radio, sir. That's good radio. That's Roger. Yeah, what that usually is barn over. Run out to the signal maintainer on the bottom of
F22 is the alternate whistle. F24 are the back marker lights. Paragon 3 is definitely not the best, but I think it does the job. Here are the only photos of the locomotive I could find that weren't eBay listings. In this footage here, you can see the same class of Challenger that Challenger 3714 was. The type of Challenger that 3714 was the 4664-4, which were delivered as coal burners and numbered as 3975 to 3999. The first 10, 3975 to 3984, were renumbered to 3815 to 3824 in 1944, and regained their original numbers in 1945 when they were converted to oil burners. They were converted to coal burners in 1946, converted again to oil burning in 1949, and renumbered to 3708 to 3717 in 1952. 105 Challengers were made, of only which 2 survived. If Challenger 3714 was renumbered like Challenger 3985 and 3977, the only 2 Challengers that were preserved, it would be Challenger 3981. Challengers 3710, 3976, 3977, 3978 were all released by Broadway Limited as Paragon 3 engines alongside 3714 here today. The MSRP for those locomotives back then was around $700, but you can only buy these Challengers from distributors that still have them, as they are now discontinued. If you want to buy a Challenger from Broadway Limited today, you can only buy an early Challenger, which I personally think are super ugly looking. There isn't a whole lot of documentation on these types of Challengers, so here's some photos that I found. This type of Challenger locomotive is definitely my favorite, and I'm very happy that I was able to get one. It definitely has a few flaws, but no deal breakers, and I can say that I highly recommend it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.